today, and thank you all for joining our live Q&A this month as well. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining as well. And to be honest, I don't think that you've probably seen me on any of these Q&A, so I'd love just to take a moment just to introduce myself. My name is Priya. I am the Education Sustainability Consultant working at the Commonwealth Education Trust and Teach2030 as well. And I'm sure many of you will be familiar with Alex. It's great to have her here as well, but we're expanding and building upon our expertise and our knowledge as well. And you know what's also wonderful, and I'm so delighted today that we are joining our conversations with James today. And I think James has had a really busy month because he's also been leading workshops as well for Teach2030, which is also wonderful too. Just before I introduce you to James, just so that you're aware, this is my first time going live through our Q&A. As I said, my name is Priya, and I have secondary school background experience, as well as teaching geography. That's my subject specialism, and as well as having an extra responsibility of teacher training as well. So today, as it's our Q&A for the month, James is going to, it's really lovely to have you here and delighted for you to join us. And really lovely to see you part of our Unido community here as well. So thank you so much for joining and being part of our partnership. And I thought I'd just take a moment, James, if you'd like to just introduce yourself for anyone watching too.
Oh yeah, thank you, Priya. My name is James Kaba, and I work for the United Nations Industrial Development Organization as a training coordinator on the Youth Rising Project, in youth employment through technical and vocational education and training, funded by the EU, the Youth Rising Project, and then the promoting youth employment through technical vocational education training is funded by the Swedish government. So thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Yeah, another thing, we are engaged in the TVET, Unified TVET system development in our country, Liberia.
Fantastic. James, I think you bring so much value and knowledge to this Q&A today. But in addition to that, it's also so valuable to see your experience and wealth of knowledge as well that you've also shared through our workshop earlier this month as well. So thank you so much as well. Now, just before we begin the Q&As, we do answer 3 questions that have been sent to us. And also, it doesn't mean that you can't respond with a question. So if you are live through our Q&A, you can always write a comment and we'd be happy to answer any of those questions. A lot of the information and support that we provide is available on our Teach2030 website as well, so you can access those courses too. And if you want some more information, feel free to let us know, and you can comment as well, and we're more than happy to support you with that as well. So as I said, joining today, both Alex and James, but today we're co-hosting because we would love to talk about 3 really quite different questions. And earlier this month, James, you had discussed within your workshop about a strategy that you use, a practical strategy called No Hands Up, which is also available through one of our courses called the Practical Active Learning course as well. And I want to ask you a question, James, because it's quite a popular learning technique as well. But what are the benefits of using No Hands Up in your classroom as well? Would you like to share a little bit about your experience and what that has been like in your classroom too?
Yeah, thank you, Priya. When you are using No Hands Up in the class, that is exactly what you need to do to tell your learners you don't want them to put their hands up to answer question when you ask them. Instead, they all need to be ready, as you may choose any of them to answer the question. So when it comes to the benefit, there are a lot of positives to no hands up in the classroom, which include you can know the understanding of your teacher. That is formative assessment.
Mm-hmm.
As part of our formative assessment focus as a teacher, it will encourage us, or I would like to encourage everyone to the classroom practice, to try that. This will help us as a teachers to learn more about our students, what they understand, what they know, who knows and who don't know. And this will give me an idea. This gave me an idea of what my learner understands, the concept that I have introduced, if they have grabbed that concepts through the learning process. And another thing it's going to do for me is going to get rid of favoritism. Now I'm going to shift my focus a little bit from those students that usually answer. When I ask a question, they usually raise their hand to answer, and then bring other students who don't answer. Will give other students a chance to be able to contribute to the lesson or to the discussion. And then it will also improve. It also help me that my students in the class always pay attention. They 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 going through their lesson. They are thinking that a question will be asked, and they have to be prepared to answer that question. So if you look, they will be paying attention to their lesson, and they will be paying attention to you the moment, because they know that they're supposed to contribute in the class. So they will become not just a passive learner but an active learner.
Yeah.
And then it will also help the student, allow my students to be able to think well by themselves, make them an independent learner, where they will be
Brilliant.
able to think about their lesson, to go through their lessons, and then be able to make their own contribution towards the lesson or whatever discussion that is on the floor. And then it will give the shy a voice. Those who in the class, maybe they feel like when they made a mistake, their friend will talk to them, or something will happen to them, or they feel ashamed of their friend
Yeah.
to talk. Now they too will be having a voice, something to say. It will be like, it better I say something than to say nothing at all. So they will
Absolutely.
always like to contribute. And then finally, what I could look at is the classroom participation and engagement. Now you will see students will be engaging each other, because you will do your question in such a way that, because as you ask the first question, from their answers, you're able to expand the question to more a question that everybody in the class can participate in that identical questions and give their feedback and understanding. So this, as a teacher, it helps you a lot in your teaching field. That's
Brilliant.
what good about no hands up in the classroom. So I always like to practice that in the classroom when I'm teaching.
That's fantastic. James, thank you so much for sharing so many benefits of using No Hands Up. And you can see the benefits in your classroom, which is also really valuable as well. And I think that some students may naturally just feel quite worried about getting the answer incorrect. And that's why sometimes
Yeah.
students don't want to raise their hand or contribute in class. So one great strategy like using no hands up is really brilliant, because what it does is that it enables all the students to be able to participate and not fear that they're going to get their question or their answer wrong as well. And I'm really glad that it's worked in your classroom. I'm sure you probably have had to tweak using no hands up in your classroom over time, but I'm so glad you see the values of that as well. And of course, this particular strategy is one of numerous strategies that we have in one of our courses that we have on Teach 2030, and that's in our course called the Practical Active course as well. And, James, we've got two other questions, and these were the questions that were sent to us, James, as well. And I think they're really great scenarios because I feel that they're both of them something that we can connect and share with as well. So, James, what I might do is I might read out the question and just hear what your views are, and then maybe we can share some other ideas and some strategies as well. So here is a
Yeah.
question that was sent to us as well, and it says this: I teach a class of 89 students in geography. This isn't me, by the way, but they are resource challenged as they scramble for few books in the library and lack reading skills. What could be the best teaching and learning strategy I could use with these students in and out of the class so that they can develop to be readers and researchers in their subject? There's quite a lot going on here. So we've got a classroom, which is quite a large classroom. We've got, few resources as well. And then we're looking for strategies to support students so that they can use them within for reading skills and research skills, possibly in and out of the classroom. So there's quite a lot going on there. And I think the first thing I want to say before I hand it over to James as well is I think that there isn't one particular strategy. I think that a range of strategies could be used here as well. And the benefits of using that could really help support students and teachers as well, so that they can understand that there are numerous different skills that could be used to gain that positive education gains that way too. So, James, what would you probably say as some of those strategies that you would help this particular teacher as well? Are you there, James? Oh, I think he's maybe just joining again. There you are, James. Can you hear me? I think you could be muted.
Yes, I can hear you. Are you hearing me?
I can
Hello?
hear you now, James. Thank you for. Did you hear the question, James?
Please read that again.
Sure, no problem. It says, I teach a class of 89 students in geography. They are resource challenged as they scramble for a few books in the library and lack reading skills. What could be the best teaching and learning strategy I could use with these students, both in and out of the class, that they can develop to be readers and researchers in their subject? So as I said, there was lots of students in a class, few resources, and then what are those strategies that could be used both in and out of the classroom that a teacher could possibly use to develop their reading skills as well as their research skills as well?
All right, thank you, Bear. If you look, there are many strategies that you can put in place to be able to counter the challenge that you have in a class, most especially with the number of students.
Mm,
So if you look, because you don't want your class to be a passive class. Maybe it could be both passive and active class. So you want your student to be engaged. So, and students, according to research, that they they will take in 20% of their lesson if a 10 to 20% of just by listening to what the teacher is saying. So what becomes of the balance 80%, 90 or 80% when they are listening to the teacher. So there are numerous ways that you can do to help. You can create a learning culture. If you look at Mr. Howard from the Howard philosophies, Davis Perkins, that talk about the giving attention to learning. So it talks about the challenges, and then when challenges and skills meet, where you have challenges in your class and then you meet the skills.
Yeah.
Then you also look at the Chinese philosophies, Confucius, where he talks about you can only learn, you can only hear and then you forget, and you can see and then you can remember, and then you can do, and
Yes.
then you understand. So those are things that you can look at. And then when you look, you get something they call learner-centered approach.
Yes.
So you can introduce a learner-centered approach in your class
Yes.
where you have a lot of students, and then it can help you develop, they can help you develop the students. And then this approach is mainly focused on the students themselves engaging the lesson, going through the lesson, using the skills that they have to solve problems, to make decisions, to work in
Brilliant.
teams, evaluate themselves, and generate their ideas. So,
Yeah,
and then as a teacher, your role now will be to facilitate the process.
absolutely.
So if you, yeah, so if you try this strategy, you will notice that your class will be, you will have many people, few resources, but then you will be able, like for example, we have a class that we were teaching something like hydraulic, but then we didn't have the, let's say, electricity. But then you know, you don't see electricity. So you have to do something for the students to be able to understand how electricity flow within the wires. So what we usually do for water, so we
Yes,
put water, we serve as the source of the pressure that is the generate electricity. And then you have the hoses, the pipes that where the water flow. And then you have the valve, which is a control, how to control the water flow. So that show you how the water flows and
brilliant,
how the current flows within the wire.
brilliant.
So like that, you creating something all or nothing to have your student learning. And then you can also introduce something like so you can introduce the confidence
James, I might just pause you there if you can hear me.
in
I
that.
think the connection isn't great there.
Yeah,
Can you hear me, James?
I- yeah,
Brilliant. James, I
I
think your
can
connection
hear you.
is. Thank you, James. I think that your connection might have just lost there for a moment there as well. But I think we can hear you now, James. So I think the last point that you were mentioning, am I right?
Eh, because hello,
Hi, can you hear me, James?
hear you.
Okay, brilliant. What we might do, James, I think some of the connection might be losing at that particular point, James. But thank you so much. What we might do is, I think you mentioned so much value in that question already. So thank you so much. I mean, to be honest, the key point there is this kind of learner-centered approach where we develop our students within their own learning capacity, and you related it through something like understanding the flow of electricity. And I think that this is really valuable because you can use lots of different practical strategies, such as using a range of questioning to help the learners understand what they know already and what they can build on as well to support them too. And I think that you had also mentioned, I think, maybe even using like a study plan or something could also support the students to help engage with students with understanding what they also know, but what skills that they need to develop on as well, and maybe working even as a group to support them as well. So thank you so much for sharing so much great value there. And it's great because the key thing here is that you're also talking about was not, we're not having passive learning here, but we're activating that learner so that students can also take lead with their learning too. And so teachers become more of a facilitator, which is what we're also engaging with as well. And I think, James, if you can still hear me, we have one final question that was shared to us, which is also another really valuable question as well. And I wondered if you can still hear us, James, if you're still connected and can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear
And
you clear.
fantastic. James, would you be happy to answer and share some value with our final question?
Yeah, no problem.
Absolutely. What I'll do, James, is I'll share the question with you, and of course anyone who's joining us as well. And just so that anyone else who's just joined us, you can add any comments into the comment box if you've got a question that you would like to ask as well, that myself and James can also answer too. So here is the question. I have a Form 1 class in clothing and textiles. Students have graduated from their primary to secondary school. However, each time is, this is what the teachers, each time they ask me to have my notebook to copy my notes. Yet I teach and write everything onto the chalkboard. And so this is a particular scenario that a teacher faces, that even though they've written down notes and taught the students all the information, some students still feel that they want to copy the notes from the teacher as well. And what would you say? Why would you first of all think, James, that this is happening amongst learners and amongst students? Why do you think that this could be the case, do you reckon?
Yeah, for me, what I think there is that something like the students are being lazy. Uh, they don't want to copy the note from the book,
Mhm.
so they always want to depend on the teacher and still want to have that traditional way in a class. But for me, I think the best way to tackle that is to introduce something like self-awareness for the students, because the students have to be aware of their own learning. They have to take responsibility of their own learning, and everybody got their roles, and they have to know that they're supposed to work in to they to complete their course that they are doing. So you can introduce that self-awareness so they can know their strength. Sometimes for me, what I usually do, I ask my students to go home, ask three person to tell you what good or anything good about yourself. And sometimes write just ask the person good to tell you the good thing about yourself. Then and in that you they can when they come to class, they themselves will tell you how they feel about what they did. And then you can also create a little group where they have to create their develop their own goal, their study plan to complete their studies, because uh, I myself, as a teacher, you yourself, you have to be able to, you have to do your continual professional development plan. So, like what the students also have to do there. So you have to give them they have to take their own learning. They have to be responsible for their own learning. And then you can also use a kind of blended learning where
Mm,
you give them a lot of assignments. You give them assignments to do, or where they can do outside of campus, and then they can submit it. This the world now we're moving towards the digital stage. So maybe you can ask them, some of them can upload it on a platform that you can create for both for you and your learners. So just to keep them engaged, that they will be able
mm,
to copy their own notes and do things on their own.
absolutely.
So for me, that I look those are some of the strategies you can put in place to help your students to come up in that situation.
Absolutely. I think there's some really valuable points that you've made there as well. And I think that having that kind of self-awareness from students and providing that confidence for them within them through the tasks, such as blended learning tasks, are really valuable. I just wanted to add on there that also it's sometimes a bit among the students, they might have a bit of a fixed mindset that actually, if I don't copy the notes, then I'm not going to get all the information, or they fear they won't have all the information, as well as maybe one of the points that you had mentioned, which was laziness as well among some of the students too. But I think that sometimes changing that language amongst um, even for the teacher and then to the pupils as well, about using more growth mindset, that actually offering that courage to students in a class, that actually they themselves can do the work, or they can also offer a bit more of a reflection of why copying is not good, but they can also develop their own skills and learning through that lesson as well. But it's one of those things that it will take some consistency. I think it's not going to happen, I'm sure, over a lesson, but that continual kind of consistency through language, through the different tasks that you've suggested as well, can also be really valuable too. And even based on that note as well, I think a lot of what we've covered today is a lot of what James have covered today is within our courses on the Teach 2030 courses as well, which are bite-sized courses too. And as I spoke about today, which is looking at fixed and growth mindsets as well. So that is also another course which is looking at the growth mindset course too. And you can find more information about that on our Teach 2030 website. But also we do have a workshop with one of our ambassadors called Najilafak, and that's on the 30th. So we would love for you to join at 3 p.m. on the 30th as well, and just adjust for the time conversion there as well. So there'll be more conversation regarding growth mindsets as well. And I think, to be honest, James, those are our 3 questions that we've covered today. I haven't seen any questions or through our comments on our Facebook page as well. And so maybe not now, but maybe someone else might catch the live later, and we can always answer your questions later on as well. But on behalf of all of us here at Teach 2030, James, we are really, really happy and so pleased and delighted to have you here again. I know you've had a very busy month, and we just want to say thank you so much, James, for all that you've done and sharing your experiences and practical support as well. Can you hear me, James? I don't know if you can hear me. I think maybe it just cut off there, James. I'm not sure. Oh, there you are. No, I think the connection's gone. But James, on behalf of
Please
all of
come
us.
back.
Oh, can you hear us?
You.
Fantastic. Okay, James, thanks again for having for joining us on our Q&A today, and thank you for everyone else who's joining us either on the live or the recorded version too. Have a wonderful day, and thank you again. Bye now.